to another edition of If You Asked Jimmy. Today in our studios, we have Chief, let me call it exactly the way he prefers to be called, Oloye Lai Dende. Oloye Dende is a civil engineer who hails from Ota in Ogun State, and he doubles as a farmer, a social media observer, and he enjoys meeting people. For your information, guys, Oloye Dende is a public commentator who has a huge followership on the social media space, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and other major social media platforms. Oloye, welcome to If You Ask Jimmy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. I just made my introduction about you very brief. Is there something you'd like to add? We want our viewers to meet you.
It can be better said. That says it all.
Awesome. So let's hit the ground running. I have observed your activities in the social media, and one of the reasons why we brought you to this platform today is your social media engagement. Very impressive how you discuss social and public and political matters, economics, in fact, everything Nigeria and global. And I see the balance in your opinion where you engage people in a very, very dispassionate and neutral manner, and also try to offer recommendations on the way forward. And that's why we brought you here today. Thanks for coming on Jimmy's podcast, sir.
I feel humbled. Thank you.
Absolutely. Where do we start from? Can you just share with us what's your motivation for coming to the public space to, engage your audience in diverse topics from the mundane to the sublime? Why you do that? Because I see your post every day, how you try to contribute to what is happening in our space. Can you tell us what's your motivation?
As an observer in any system or in any society, observers look at things and they, from a critical perspective, and they try to prefer better ways of getting things done. I have a background of leadership and administration. My father, the former chairman of Ifo local government, then Ado local government, who played his part in governance. So from that background and so many other extended people, we used to see the way they do things. Then today, when you look at the landscape, see that there is need for a lot of improvement in the system. So when there is a gap, when there is need for people to do things better, one of the ways of contributing is to prefer better ways of doing things, and then trying to strike a good balance, so that you don't, when you tell people that, okay, you can do things better, you try and strike a balance so that they don't see you as being antagonistic or from an enemy perspective. So that's the thing. We want a better space.
So you come from a political family. We grew up together, and your dad was 2 times chairman of our local government, even when the local government was split more into what it is today. So you are saying you cut your teeth from there. When you look at our social media space, are you concerned about how people engage? Because we look at the older generation, we have a view about maybe the kind of toxic, caustic, and sometimes very, very brutal way people communicate their thoughts. Everyone has a right to their opinion, but when you look at it very closely, it looks as if people don't have that patience or the maturity to actually have conversations to agree without being disagreeable. And sometimes you don't even want to read the comments that educated, enlightened people put out there in the social space. Instead of engaging and instead of having constructive conversations and criticisms and sharing opinions, and just sometimes, do you get bothered how people react to issues in Nigeria, the polarization, and some of the times unpalatable comments and outright abuse and cursing? What's your opinion on that?
Well, if we limit it to Nigeria, well, there's a source of worry over the way we handle issues. Sometimes we will leave critical issues and then we'll pick on the trivial. That is one. Two, a lot of people don't look critically at issues. We just react spontaneously to issues without consulting or conducting of any due diligence. And then the liberty and the lack of regulation, so to speak, in the media space gives room for people to just come barge into issues, just say whatever to whoever. Sometimes I have experience of people, personal experience of people who have spoken against their potential benefactors. So who later they met each other and then I say, are you Olo Elijah? Then they will not say, okay, yesterday you disparaged me, you threw me under the train so much. Why? So yes, there's liberty, there's freedom of expression, yes, and there's freedom for people to express themselves. But on the social space, we have taken it too far. We've taken it extremely too far in, not being cautioning ourselves.
That reminds me.
Then it's not just a young person thing. It's not for the Gen Z generation alone. It cuts across. Surprisingly, there are times.
Go ahead.
There are times old people disappoint themselves when you see old, educated people who should be better informed. It comes sometimes to the social media with below par contribution. Then we wonder why. What's happening? How do we, if we want to caution young people, the Gen Z generation, okay, how do we caution perceive old people who should know better and understand how to, treat issues?
That is true. When you, to buttress what you just said, if you look closely, even in our national political space, in this current government, I think there was a minister, I can't remember who, with the name of that guy, who took the president to the cleaners in the past, and this same person has value to offer, but the president was not vindictive because he saw, value in him. I think the guy is in the tech space. He still appointed him a minister, and it became an issue for the guy during his screening at the Senate and for ministerial position, that you said this in the past. That's not to say people should not criticize, right? But the length to which he went to criticize was not ethical. And we have some, government, I don't know whether to call them government patrons right now. Look at people like Reno Mokri, people like Wala. Wala is on president's team now. Is even looking like the arrowhead of the president communications, and media team in a way. He might not have that title, but he's the one doing the cleanup job. And you see how he took the president to the cleaners in the past. But back to the social media space, I see how. Go ahead,
Jimmy. This is it. Me, I don't like anyone gaggling the next person. I don't like being silenced, and I don't support anyone silencing the next person. Criticism and positive feedback helps the system. So when there is always a better way of doing everything. Even good system, good processes can be better done. So that's where criticism comes in. So as observers in the social space, it's good to criticize, offer better ways, alternatives to issues. Then we should be moderate in doing it in such a way that when Lai criticizes Jimmy one day, I should be able to look at you in the face and tell you, say, yes, I said this, I did this. Not for me to come in contact with someone I once criticized and then for me to close my eyes in shame. No. Criticize, but be objective we should be objective in our criticism.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you, Oloyelai. Now, just this week, I will try to take you, because in the space, I see your social media activity back to back. And sometimes, I don't know if people still have the time to go to mainstream media these days, because people like you keep feeding us with the updates of the most important meets, I would have said juicy stories of what is going on, but sometimes some of those stories are not really juicy, but you only report and share what is going on, okay? And sometimes we just have to go to the newspapers to seek more information on some of those things. Different things that are happening right now and burning issues. Are we still going to have opposition in 2027 with the gale of deflection that we see right now? Recently, El-Rufai came out and he was grandstanding, he was doing, maybe Nigeria call it initial gra-gra. He sounded, because he was saying a lot of things that people can easily relate with. He really came hard on the government, which he has a right to. And it looks as if he was galvanizing people so that they can have a very strong force. I remember the last election, even the one before it, second force, third force, fourth force, all of those things, the president still won. Now, the kind of velocity, let me use that word, that El-Rufai brought to the space, you would have thought that the whole of Nigeria or the elites they are lining up behind him. But before you could say Jack Robinson, you see everybody turning to, jumping from Labour, from PDP, including state governors, including the former vice presidential candidate to Atiku in the last election. They are jumping on the ship to join Alhaji Asiwaju's government. Are we still going to have opposition? Because Labour now is already split. SDP that this guy went to, I don't know whether they are still SDPing. And now here we are, the governor of one of the richest states, traditionally PDP states.
Delta State.
Delta, and even Jigawa, say a lot of those people are joining. Are we moving towards a one-party state, Chief Dende?
This is a very tough one. There is need. I wish there is a way the opposition is sustained, but nobody spoon feeds the opposition. See, nobody can just. Opposition fights for existence. Nobody gives space or create, room for opposition to operate. Opposition creates its own space by itself, and there are so many issues that the opposition can use to operate with, because governance presently, there are so many better ways of doing things, and that is the crux of the matter. So many issues for the opposition to deliberate on, treat, dissect, and offer better alternatives day by day. For everybody running into the ruling party, well, that goes to show that our political space is not issue-based. It's more of a, person to person, who how We don't have a lot of issue-based political platforms. That is why someone will criticize beyond the limit in month 1, and then the next month is going to serve in the government he once criticized. And then when asked, how come you spoke against all these policies last month, today you are with them, they offer next to nothing as defenses. You see, well, talking about second force, third force, and all sort of forces, I didn't mean we have room for cultivation of real issues. Then we'll be building a good opposition base, whereby we have a system that can really challenge the ruling party. Opposition is not supposed to be spoilers. Opposition is not supposed to be spoiler, but they are supposed to offer better ways of getting things done, not to be spoilers, but to offer better ways of doing things. But today in Nigeria, it's all about for me to join Jimmy in his party, then I agree to everything Jimmy agrees to. Once I go against Jimmy, Jimmy throws me out of his party. Then for me to join, or Jimmy to join me in his, then if any day he goes against my policy, I throw him out of my party.
Yeah.
We don't have the party, we don't have the party structure as of old, where everybody contributes their pittance and their ideas in forming, political parties and party ideologies. Today, it's the idea of one person, right, and the money bag, the war chest of one person that run parties to this day.